So I'm Marc. Nice to meet you tonight, and thank you, Chantal. I'm joining with Rohan here. Bit of applause for Rohan. Rohan has been busy all day setting up the wireless for the Rogers Cup, so lots of work right now.
Yeah.
So, exciting.
I'm kind of going on almost no sleep, so.
He's a restless guy. So I'm Marc Lijour. I'm working at Cisco for a year, and I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I used to teach math and computer science and computer studies and a number of things. In France, Mexico, Portugal, I traveled a little bit before I came here. I worked at the ministry for 7 years, Ministry of Ed, those guys who actually shut you down, guys. I was almost pulling my hair off, that's why I'm missing a lot of hair now. Because I worked on the computer studies curriculum and launching e-learning and the techie thing in the ministry. I also went back to school. I love school. I love actually walking the talk. So I went to a bachelor in computer science, specialized in software engineering, and love the open source movement and fascinated by distributed learning and distributing collaborative development. That's why I did a little study on that. And then I went to MBA to see how exciting it is from the business side. And so I looked at the things from different sides. And right now I'm the education guy at Cisco, looking at how we can transform education and offering a delightful experience for students and a lot of success for students and for you guys in the job market. And Rohan can say a few words about himself. So
sure. So my name is Rohan Karamandi. I'm a systems engineer for Cisco in the data center side. So basically that means I work with clients, help them develop a solution and hopefully implement it. So part of that also includes working on some kind of offbeat or cooler kind of projects with, like Rogers Cup, for example, that I'm setting up a lot of the infrastructure there for the next couple of weeks. Got to work on quite a few, especially sports kind of projects we're currently going. For example, CFL Hunters Great Cup, they had a train that went coast to coast. So I basically got to play, kind of pimp my ride with a train, deck it out with screens, with audio equipment, a whole bunch of networking gear in there. And I got to ride the train coast to coast for 10 weeks with the Canadian Football League, so that was pretty neat. So alongside a lot of that, my actual job does involve working with clients and helping develop a solution. So that's a bit of what I do. I'm actually a recent graduate as well. Well, I guess not recent, but recent enough. Graduated in 2011 from UOIT, the Bachelor of IT, and which eventually led me to my current gig here at Cisco. So, yeah.
Thank you, Rohan. So it doesn't look like it, but Rohan doesn't sleep. He's kind of a restless guy. And I guess that's what you get when you're working for a big company. So many exciting projects, and Sheridan is certainly one of those projects where we're doing a lot of great things there. That works now. So a little bit about classroom. So it's so interesting that education technology didn't really improve over 4,000 or 5,000 years. When you used to have students in rows and just writing stuff on paper and doing some things like that. Thankfully, it's changing today, and in part it's changing thanks to you guys as users, consumers, developers, designers. We are reinventing how collaboration, how living with technology, what it means and what it should be in a classroom. So education sometimes it's a feedback loop, so we have to go back to the drawing board and reinventing the classroom. And the classroom of the future are all these elements, because you cannot teach someone like Chantal does. Chantal actually made this very clear. You have to go out on the field, you have to go to conferences, talk to the industry, stay in touch with the customers and what do people want and what do people do. And that's the kind of experience you need to bring to the classroom to let the students chew on it and experience what it is. So, yeah, so good. So that's an interesting graph. There are a number of those stats that you'll find online, and it's so interesting because you'll find that students are connected most of the time out of school, and in school there's a kind of a big gap, like how do you call that, a dead zone?
Dead zones, yeah.
And that's unfortunate. So we're working in a classroom of the future with instructors like Shanta, and Sheridan is really ahead of the curve for that matter. So that's the kind of experience you can have today. You can have people coming in remotely, whether they are teachers, whether they are students, and have different kind of experience. And you have kind of back-channel conversations. And frankly, even though the college or the university doesn't do it, it's happening anyway, because you guys take your laptop, you take your cell phones, and you're right there. So the point is to really align technology and use these great tools like digital media, and not only using them to consuming them, but I'm very passionate about the fact that we need a technology culture. We need to know something about how computers work and how to program. Like, even though it's a limited experience you can have with HTML, CSS, some rule-based programming or some imperative kind of programming, then you need to know a little bit how things work around you if you want to be truly free and good citizen. So a kind of program that we have, and in partnership with Sheridan, we have this program VROC, it's called Virtual Researchers on Call, where you have a researcher from a university that is the expert on wells, or on horses, on computer science, data mining, anything. And they make themselves available, and they can connect with students in K-12. And Sheridan hosts the data center, and they host all the stuff in their infrastructure. And we're working with a nonprofit, it's called Partners in Research, that provide the service. So it's kind of a nice service for the kids. And we use that program in Connected North, where we are bringing video conferencing in a class. So we have some guys like Rohan actually taking the plane and going and set things up in the north, which is kind of fun. This school there used to be suffering from a lot of dropouts. And right now it's the best performing school in terms of attendance in the whole Nunavut. So it's kind of a great story. But the best story for me coming from government is actually looking at all these organizations, whether they're private or non-profit, coming together to make that happen. You have more than 15 different partners working together to actually deliver this service, including sick kids, bringing telepsychiatry into these kids. This thing is supposed to work. I paid a lot of money for that one. We have also the Cisco Networking Academy, 4 million students, alumni across 165 different countries, and about 22,000 students currently enrolled in the program in Canada. 15 years, and it's one of the major investments Cisco did in education. It's not very well known. And by the way, Cisco is not a food company. It's the networking company. And we've invested $100 million in STEM over the few years. And one other thing that we have in the back end, so we're going to survey a little bit, fly a little bit over a number of things so that you get an overview. But I don't want to miss a chance to let Rohan speak a little bit about the data center stuff. I'm sure there are a few data center junkies in the room, so that's your moment, guys. Enjoy.
Sure. So before we do this, Marc was talking about virtual learning, all those things. I just want to gauge the audience. How many people have used any kind of virtual learning, whether it's web conferencing or any of those kind of? Okay, cool. That's a decent amount. Perfect. Sorry, I was just curious on my own personal interest about that. So, VDI. So before I talk about this, so a lot of this virtual learning, a lot of these kind of initiatives also require a lot of power on the back end. So one of the neater projects that we got to work on was with Sheridan College, where they deployed a whole virtual desktop solution, basically that entails, think of how you use your laptop, so on and so forth right now, or a desktop PC, taking that entire platform and moving it back to a data center somewhere. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to centralize that learning experience. So what that means is what you're running, what laptop you have, or whether you want to use your iPad or any mobile device, that really doesn't matter now. So what essentially is happening is we're taking all that processing and moving it back, which now entails the same kind of consistent experience no matter what platform you're on. Especially a question for the recent graduates in the audience, or people that are still in school, or even if you graduated from school not too long ago. How many of you found that you had issues experiencing any kind of just resources from your school network or anything like that would, depending on laptop? So quite a few people. So one of the things this does is, in terms of talking about e-learning, is we're trying to, or virtual learning and learning or teaching in the classroom, is we're trying to make sure that experience is consistent. And part of doing that is, think of the mainframe days where everything happened on back in the mainframe computer, which now kind of just correlates to our data center. And then your terminal essentially just reads font or just displays font for you to talk about. So that's kind of the idea of VDI, is we're kind of moving back towards that model, again, to deliver a consistent experience. So one of the neater projects was Sheridan. So we deployed our computing platform at Sheridan to enable them to do this. So there's a lot of technical speak on here, but essentially what I spoke to earlier is what happened. And so they piloted it with a small group of people, very few students, some faculty, and then now they started rolling it out to the masses, and then now they're looking at taking that and rolling it further to more advanced applications like AutoCAD, things like that. Problem with a lot of those is delivering an experience that stimulates something like using your actual laptop, something that's a lot more powerful than delivering it over just a network connection, essentially. So part of that, there was a lot of innovations around the way they did it, and a big part of that also relies on cloud computing. So cloud computing, they're using it as a separate, Sheridan was using it as a separate service. So before I get into kind of cloud programmability, who here knows what cloud computing is? Sweet. Okay, volunteer. Can somebody define cloud for me? What is the cloud? Yeah.
On-demand resources.
Sorry.
On-demand resources.
On-demand resources. Okay, that's a good one.
Star as a service.
Sorry.
Star as a service.
Okay.
Buzzword for virtual machine.
Buzzword for virtual machine. All right. You know what? You're all right. So part of what cloud is it is a buzzword for virtual machine. It is Star as a service. Right. So what cloud really is it's basically a platform that's very scalable. Right? No matter what you toss at it, it should be able to take it. It's built on multi-tenancy, meaning kind of an enterprise environment would be finance has their own bunch of resources that they need, compute nodes, whatever it might be, or applications. Maybe a marketing department of that same company has different resources, so on and so forth, and they're all secure from each other. Right? So it's multi-tenant. It deals a lot with orchestration, which I'll talk about in a second. And essentially, yeah, it could be to your point, it could be virtual machines, but there's also more than that, right? I mean, in the back end, yeah, it is essentially a bunch of virtual machines. But to your point about X as the service or XaaS, there's different kinds. So there's hosted SDKs, there's hosted applications where something like Salesforce, where you just go in and use it, or you can even consider Facebook as the Facebook application itself as a service, right? And then Facebook's developer SDK on top of that as another different portion of the service. or to your point, you could just spin up a bunch of virtual machines. So the idea is, again, it's very scalable. So this is used quite a bit nowadays, we're seeing in education, especially because of the segmentation you can do. Especially when you start looking at higher ed for universities, colleges, so on and so forth. So again, so depending on the kind of resources you need, it's scalable, it's on demand, right? I believe you mentioned it was it's on demand as you need resources, you just kind of add to them. And as you're running out of resources, it should just be a matter of, just it should dynamically add itself, right? Which I'll talk about in a second. So part of that is network programmability. So when we talk about network programmability, we're talking about what we call software-defined networking, which used to be a buzzword, and now it's actually turned into something that kind of exists. So similar to cloud, to your point, I just keep pointing to you because you did, for the longest time, I was also under that same, it's a buzzword, what does this actually mean? And until recently, there actually is a proper NIST definition for cloud now. So, but same way, SDN used to be a buzzword, now it's actually tangible, now there's actually things you can do. So the idea is you're trying to get your network to be programmable. So application developers can actually start talking to the network now. You can actually start shifting resources as you need, shifting network resources or creating network resources as needed, right? So part of this, a bigger picture, when you're starting to, let's say you are developing Facebook, right? Facebook.com, you are the developer for it. You need a platform that can actually scale the network resources as well as the computer resources, right? So this is a big part of that. A lot of what the industry is moving towards to now is something called application-centric infrastructure. What that essentially means is it is a programmable infrastructure that also ties in with the whole cloud concept of being multi-tenant. So for a service provider, for example, you can say, okay, this customer of ours has their own set of infrastructure that's virtual, right? It might not necessarily be physical network resources, they could be just virtually segmented off, and it's secure from each other, right? So that's, again, multi-tenancy. So all of these kind of different pieces are built into ACI. And then again, so it's network being able to adapt to applications needs. Example, it's not an education example, but it is an example nonetheless. Cable networks. Who here has cable TV at home? And the rest of you's hired. Good. So cable networks are actually built so that they're actually more intelligent than you give it credit for. So part of, for example, what Rogers would do to deliver an experience for you that you actually enjoy is your cable box at home actually talks back to the infrastructure. And if there's not enough resources that the infrastructure, that the cable box is getting, it'll go back to the infrastructure and say, listen, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to somehow shift your bandwidth to give me more bandwidth because the person that's sitting behind this TV is not enjoying what they're watching because it's maybe stuttery or something like that. So they do a lot to prevent that kind of stuff. And that is a very, very, very early adaptation of what we call SDN. So let's talk about servers, right? So we talked about the network. Now, the second part of the cloud is servers. So when we're talking about server statelessness, server programmability, a lot comes into play here. So, okay, great. So now you built the network, you can program to talk to the network. Fantastic. Now what do you need to do to actually move this, to actually have a compute resource? So typically there's a lot of places like you mentioned virtual machines. Just do most people here understand what a virtual machine is? Hands up if you do. Okay, good. So I'm not going to go too deep into it. Basically, you're emulating a computer or a machine using a machine. It's a terrible definition. But essentially, so what happens is there's a little more than this. So being able to scale up applications, being able to scale up compute resources. So let's say you have a whole bunch of servers. You don't want to sit there and each server can be used for a different purpose, right? There's application nodes, there's web nodes, there's database nodes, there's all these different purposes. So as you need to scale, the idea is you should be elastic. That's also an industry term. So being able to be elastic, elasticity is a very important feature of this. So part of that also involves statelessness, which I'll talk about in a second, as well as being able to program it to be to do what your application needs it to do. So for example, going back to the example of you developing Facebook, right? Your application needs to scale. You need more resources. There's too many users on one node. What do you start doing? Same way. Do we have any AWS programmers in here, or anybody that programs for Amazon? Yeah, a couple. Azure, Microsoft Azure. Okay, got like one. So the idea is essentially now what happens is in the back end, the infrastructure scales as you need to. Amazon, Azure, all these different guys, they kind of say, okay, you know what, we'll provide the resources you need to do. All you need to do, worry about is coding for it, right? So that's actually one of the advantages as an application developer of moving to the cloud. So statelessness. So what does this mean? So servers and such typically have what we call state built into it. What we're doing is, so there's burnt-in addresses like MAC addresses, things that you can't pull. Problem is, once you start having these kind of things, applications tie to that. So how do you move applications around? How do you take this and scale it? So one of those approaches, the approach we took at Cisco is we said, okay, you know what, we want to pull out all of these stateful values and dump them in an XML file. So now you're basically taking the personality of a server and then moving it around. So the nice thing about that is because it's an XML file, you can clone that. Now being able to, so a lot of our servers now have, well, our entire server platform rather, has an XML API. So what you can start doing is combining these two to scale. So basically now you're saying, okay, I have this XML file which I want to use as a template. Take that, copy and paste it a few times over, right? So once you copy and paste it a few times over, that's how you scale consistently, because now these values don't change. These values just grow. So third step to that is, interesting stuff. Oh, super. Is orchestration. So putting all this together. So taking your network programmability, taking your server programmability, and bringing it together. So that involves orchestration. Orchestration basically is based on workflows. What you're trying to say is, okay, I want to start scaling this resource now. I have an application, and I want to take it and I want to build on it. How do you build on it? So you take this, you have something like, anybody heard of OpenStack? Anybody using OpenStack right now? Okay, a couple of people, cool. What's that?
That's 2 questions.
Fair enough. So things like OpenStack allow you to achieve this, right? So they talk back to the network side, they talk back to server side, they talk back to all your resources, and now they start saying, okay, as I need to grow, I'll dynamically bring in these resources. So that gives you that concept of cloud with that dynamic or that elasticity. As you need to grow, it'll grow with you. So there's a few different products out there. These are just a couple of them. We actually acquired TailF 4 weeks ago, something like that. But essentially, it's about rapid provisioning, right? So now that just to give you kind of a background in cloud. So how do you use this for education, right? So you take this now education, colleges like Sheridan, for example, are taking this and building on this so that they can rapidly start provisioning services to you guys. Right? So as students need to use it, as application developers need to use it, you just start scaling. I think I'm giving too much back for Marc, so I'll skip through.
Okay, I'll go faster.
Sorry, Marc.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks. Applause for Rowan. Very good.
Thank you.
So that's why I need to bring a technical guy from time to time, because I get it's getting difficult all this cloud stuff from time to time. But I think for you guys, and I assume you're mostly developers and coders, and I thought the programmability story of the cloud and where it is going, it's a great story, because your skills as coders, and even HTML coders, you guys are in HTML5, you're just saying this document, this is how it is laid out, this the content piece, this is the menu piece, this is that block about something, it tells something about a document. So you're familiar with a policy. And where the cloud is going now, it allows you to actually program the cloud and also set some policy where the machine knows what to do. Because you tell, okay, that kind of app needs a big network, a small or medium database, and these kind of resources. And now, based on what's happening in the network, in the apps, on the web, the whole system knows how to scale up. And that's where the magic is. You don't have to care about going to the data center and putting a blade into a chassis. Just have to write policy and just scale up. So if you guys are familiar with Chef, Puppet, all these kind of systems, it's basically what's happening in the back end now. So that's the programmable cloud, if you will, the programmable data center. But why is it important for education? It's important because that's your career, that's your next job. Maybe in 10 years, that's all it is. There's no more web. The web is going to be done by a big machine. Who knows, right? So that's the kind of future everybody, like including the instructors, the educators like us, and Chantal, we need to stay on top of this. And if you want to have a long career, you too. So it's all about the experience you get in the school and what you are able to do and to produce to get on the job market as a student. It's not enough to say, oh, I have this degree for X, Y, Z, right? The guys from Big Nicolas, they know that. It's about the ability to say, this is what I've done, this is what I'm capable to do, this is what I'm worth for the employer. And you're good to go and you're ready to hit the ground running. So one of the things we've done at Sheridan is to build some kind of hackathons and competitions with the Parapan games. And that's one example of it. All the teams that actually presented and worked that day, they all had amazing ideas, like lots of creativity in the thing. And it's amazing to see how technology actually lowers the barrier to market. Like a lot of people have great ideas. The technology is getting simpler and simpler and simpler to use. Now you can just buy the cloud, buy the drink for a couple of dollars. You can actually put your WordPress up there and keep the ball rolling. And that's what the idea is about. That's another thing that they managed to do with technology. They actually developed this mobile app to actually check up the line at the Tim Hortons. And it's not a fake app. It's not just a thing they did in the course. It's actually something they're using at the Sheridan campus, and people talk about it.
Used it this morning.
There you go. So, okay. So this innovation story that we enable at Sheridan, it's also something we have to do at Cisco in a big company. So I'm still new at Cisco, less than a year. So surprised to hearing the CEO saying how IT companies can flip and disappear in the fall, very fast. Over 5 years, that some big companies gone in the wind, like in the shadow of the past. So there is this awareness in big IT companies that we constantly need to innovate. So that's why we have these hackathons, we have these big events. There was a Cisco Live at San Francisco where they did a connected mobile experience hackathon. We're going to say a word about connected mobile experience in a moment. We have DevOps, we have some different buildings with different floors, or people do some entrepreneurship thing and they are working on their own thing separately. Like we're trying a bunch of stuff. And why is it important? It is important because as a big company has a lot of money and a lot of resources to actually think about where the future is. And for individuals or consultants or freelancers, just by watching what these companies are saying, you actually get some free information about where this thing might go for you as well. So Cisco has some plans for Canada. And the first thing it is to contribute into Canada, and not just being a sales shop, just pushing hardware and software, but it's also saying, okay, Canada, we have such a great talent available, and you guys are a demonstration of that. Let's use our Canadian talent to actually do something in Canada and put Canada on the map and for the whole world, but also within Cisco, like have a strong Canada within Cisco. There's actually number 2 person at Cisco right now. Rob Lloyd is a Canadian. And also another important person is also Canadian. Rowan Trollop is the head of collaboration. So I have a good advocates and good champions for Canada at Cisco, including our president here and Nitin Gawali, of course. So R&D footprints, that's cutting the job with the government. We're doubling size, and we're hiring about 1,700 employees over the next 6 years. And we're actually planning to do a little bit of the same thing over 10 years. So doubling the workforce over 6 years and adding another 1,700 if things go well over the next the following 4 years.
That means there's a lot of jobs out there for you guys.
And that's a lot of things we should be talking about. So right now, if you're really interested, we are looking at people with credentials in cloud and security. These are the 2 hot things right now. The Research and Innovation Center. So researchers, it's some research that we provide some investments in universities across Canada. And why it is good? It's good if you're doing, you want to pursue a master, doctoral studies, or you want to do some research in university in some area that's the next step where the internet, or that Cisco thinks the internet is going to be. Then you could get into these research projects funded by Cisco. We're also bringing 1 of 4 global innovation center for the Internet of Everything. And that means that the Kenyan team actually went to fight to have this center in Toronto. It's the 1 center for North America. We actually won it over the US. And Toronto has been selected, and that means for us here in the community, $100 million investment over 10 years. And so why is this good? It's good because there is a big void here, an empty void with Norton and BlackBerry shaking a little bit or a lot. Cisco wants to be the major number 1 IT company that's going to be stimulating an ecosystem. And why it makes sense, our company, Cisco, does business through a lot of partners, a lot of solutions. More than 25,000 partners that we're working with. So almost all the big ones and a lot of more small ones that could be you selling your business and getting attached to us. Investment fund, that's a new fund that's been announced, $150 million for startups, early stage. And it's going to be direct and indirect, so through a number of established partners here. Smart and connected communities, it's what we do in mitigation is changing how communities live, because really, most people don't really care, like, what is the cloud, the data center, or this place, where do they fit? People care about their cell phones. They care about their TV box or their intranet. That's what they care about. So we're focusing on changing the lives of citizens and smart cities and education. In data centers, we want to have Canada a strong place in the planet in terms of data centers and cloud capabilities. So here's a little summary with pictures. And we also have the panel games. We launched the clock a couple of weeks ago. The Cisco clock is a great story. You guys should go at Nathan Phillips Squares and take a picture of yourself. It's a clock. It gives the time, but it's also almost a data center with dark fiber and a lot of computing power behind these things. Amazing story. Okay, so these are the technology transitions. A lot of numbers. If you are in this business in IT, it's because you already believe that there's a lot of things, because you like the profession, but there is a big market out there and a lot of opportunities for grab, especially in the mobile space and all these connected devices. There are we estimate there are 13 billion connected devices today, and we estimate it would be growing by a factor of 4 by the end of the decade. That's about 50 billion connected devices. So a lot of new smartphones coming online, but also lights connected to the network and your smart home and all these different objects talking to each other. So the app space is going to be where people are going to go to program this and design this experience for home user, for education, for... Okay, so let's move on. And so Internet of Everything, that we estimate that's about $19 trillion opportunity over 10 years. And you can grab a piece of that pie. Okay, so what's in it for you? I laid out 3 things that's for your takeaway today. DevNet, it's a community online where you can grab a lot of SDKs, APIs, play with Cisco stuff. It's if you're a small shop or if you want to test it out, that's where you go. The Solution Partner Program is for companies where you have something that rides on top of the network or the cloud, and somehow you want to do business with Cisco and use or Salesforce or technical documentations or engineers, and focus on your niche and attack a special market. We help you do that. And the last one, if you have more, social conscience out there, if you just want to hack, there's a lot of free open source software things that Cisco participates in. You're welcome to participate. So DevNet, it's about 80,000 members, more than 100 APIs, 74 SDKs. Very easy to get there. It's developer.cisco.com. You just need to sign in. It's free. You can get up there. And right now you can see a lot of documentation. By next January, you have access to sandboxes. So you'll be able to test your programs. And you have a community. You can get the new beta stuff, download it, test it, communicate, talk to engineers. You have education opportunities. And it's just a great platform to be in. I'm just going to go fast on that one because it's a connected mobile experience. And that's one of the things you could actually get to play with. The new Cisco Access ones, the wireless things you have on the wall, they can locate devices in the room. So you can automate a lot of stuff. If you watch Google I/O, by the way, you can open your new Android phone if you have a watch. And how does that happen? It happens because these two devices are location aware. They know they're close to each other. And now the Cisco APIs have this kind of intelligence, so you can automate a number of things when in the room. For example, like we do for cars, you get to your office and you can set up automatically your entire office. The phone becomes your number. The HVAC is just the temperature you like. The light is exactly the light of the temperature you like. And the DevTO is exactly the way you like. So that's the kind of experience you can develop. So I encourage you to go and check this stuff. Lots of great stuff. And my slides will be available online. So and we're going to be there getting some beer, and you're welcome to have a chat.
Yep.
Thanks.